Question about when will a commercial or when will LTE offerings be ready for public safety? The reality is a lot of public safety agencies are currently using commercial LTE environments for certain data, access to certain data on mobile platforms like laptops or iPads and things of that nature. So LTE is already ready for public safety. Is it completely ready or serve all our needs? Probably not at the moment. Certainly from a policing perspective, the latency of call setup times for voice over LTE is an ongoing concern. So the classic example is if you've got a hostage siege, the command don't shoot suddenly becomes shoot because of the call setup times. So we're still very concerned about that. So that small aspect still needs to be developed. But there's a lot of what can be done in LTE today certainly enhances the capability of public safety agencies as we speak to.
Well, making LTE ready for public safety would first and above all entail having the standards in place, and that means at least having that implemented in a 3GPP standard, what we have right now, supplied by the ETSI standard Tetra or Tetrapol or the like. So this would be the first step. The second step would be that industry, the manufacturers, pick up these standards and implement them in the systems and in the devices. And third, we need to train our users, the first responders, in order to use the new technology, because the old Tetra features are going to look slightly or even quite different in the new LTE environment. So our first responders might change their workflows and their way of coping with the challenges they have in incidents.
I think LTE really is already as a technology for public safety. So we already have, for example, the Release 12 QCIs, which provide the public safety specific quality of service. So those are enablers for the public safety bearers to provide the prioritization for public safety. There have been some standardization of mission critical push to talk, which is application level, the voice, and this year in Release 14 was working on the standardization of the video and data. That's not to say that we need to have the standardized applications ready. We can still do public safety with a pre-standardized version of those services. So I would say the technology itself is ready. We're now implementing those standardized mechanisms, and we'll see a growth of the ecosystem, more devices, more support for those public safety specific features in the equipment.
I think in terms of replacing the current Tetra service, I think the functionalities are there. So MCPTT, for example, is there. There's some sort of proximity services like functionalities, but those functionalities would need to be available in the radio networks that, for example, we use in Finland as a virtual operator. I know that there are a reality, those functionalities. They are into Release 13. But we can't buy those from the radio networks that we use in Finland. So we are lacking that, but I think we are quite close to having enough. But just for the MCPTT, once we start needing MC data and MC video, things are a bit different, and we have to look into the future releases.
If we look at LTE now, what's available now and what can we use, certainly using mobile devices like iPads, laptops and things of that nature in the field, providing access to data closer to an incident scene. We can certainly do that now. As far as decision support tools, I think we've got a lot of work to do in that area. However, LTE is just going to be the highway we send that data down. So we need to do a lot of work from a public safety perspective in understanding what we actually want out of an LTE network. We know radio voice comms very well because we're doing it for 40, 50 years. Mobile data will fundamentally change our business. So we will make the transition from relying 100% on voice to a greater reliance on data. But we, as public safety officers, haven't really articulated, in my opinion, what we want out of that data. So it's very interesting. You look at, say, FirstNet in the United States, where they're trying to do a lot of work about defining what is the customer user requirements of the LTE network. If we don't know what we want, it's very difficult to go to a vendor and ask them to actually build a network to meet those requirements. So the work for LTE, it's not so much in the wireless interface or the backhaul, it's actually in understanding the user requirements. What can we do and what should we do? So I think that's where the work really should be focused at the moment.
Well, at this point in time, we have unstandardized LTE available from commercial providers. This is not ready for use in mission-critical situation, but it might well serve for trials and projects in critical communication that is not mission-critical. And indeed, you see many projects popping up, like using tablets for database researches, using tablets also as monitors for multimedia stuff and so forth, and using LTE-based software applications to steer the drones and see what the drones are doing.
So what we have available now are these prioritised bearers. We have a quality of service mechanism which has been there for some years, is already in the networks. We have the multicast EMBMS technology, and we have pretty standard application level push-to-talk, video and data. So the building blocks are there. What needs to be done now, I think, is the demand, effectively. The industry will respond to the organisations introducing LTE and growing it. And of course, the capabilities will evolve over the years, just as the capabilities of 3G and 4G and general mobile technology have evolved.
Well, like I said in my earlier answer, the functionalities that we need for group talk functionalities, the MCPTT in general, that is ready, and I think that has to be just make a decision. But I think the biggest problem is that the PPDR sector in Europe is so fragmented that we all, different countries want different things. We, for example, in Finland, we are a small country and we need different things and in different times that, for example, Germany. So it's not really interesting enough market for MNOs and for vendors to make those into something that we can actually buy and subscribe. So in terms of what needs to be done, I think we have to start talking first of all with each other inside the PPDR sector, but also with business critical users and transport sectors to form a better business case.
If we think about current technology and ask how does LTE compare, I think LTE is a core component of current technology, same as what cloud computing is, or big data solutions, data analytics. So the LTE, certainly the wireless interface, is critical to what we do nowadays. And if we just look at business and the commercial sector about how they use mobility and LTE networks to support their business and how they use mobility to transform their business model and develop a new model which is appropriate for today's capability. If we take it from that viewpoint, certainly LTE is a critical component. That being said, Tetra and P25 radio voice communications will be with us for a long time to come, and it will be interesting to see how the voice over LTE goes in the new UK communications network being developed. I think a large number of people around the world are watching that intently to see how successful or otherwise it will be.
I suppose the most obvious way in which it differs is the high bandwidth it supports. Using LTE makes you part of a huge global ecosystem with all the cost benefits that brings, the scale. You can leverage the billions and billions of dollars of investment that are taking place with LTE. So really, by adopting LTE, you're joining a road that will lead to 5G and really participate in all of that investment.
Well, I think the most important thing is that LTE can, at least in the near future, offer the same level that we have now. That's the baseline. As we move over to LTE, even though it offers lots of new possibilities, it has to do at least what TETRA does today. As for new opportunities, I think that mission critical data and mission critical video, at the moment they are something that we are very interested in. But as we start, for example, using mission critical video, it's like getting a new sense. Instead of just hearing, you are also seeing. And I think that is going to become very, very important functionality in the future, and really something that we can't live without once we start using it.
If we look at LTE and the potential to meet the challenges of end users, I think it's certainly robust enough to meet the majority of the challenge that we face. At the end of the day, it's now just ones and zeros, I guess, and IP based. So it's a lot easier to do things on LTE or an LTE environment than what it used to be under our old communications environment. So I think we certainly, I think certainly technology's there. Whether the end users understand what's possible is another question, and that just underscores the importance of industry associations like TCCA and the importance of these conferences that we're here in Dubai for the next 2 days, where we need to form the relationship between the end users, the industry, government, and start talking with each other a lot more so that we can understand different perspectives and build the trust up. And if we can build that trust and the collaboration up, I think the LTE from a technology perspective will certainly release a lot of potential which we probably don't realise today.
I think if the new technology is trained and the applications are constructed in a way that they're user-friendly, I think it is flexible enough. TETRA and TETRAPOL are not that flexible either. You have to adapt your workflows and ways of acting to that technology. So everything which has to do with radio is somewhat complicated.
So are LTE solutions flexible enough to deal with the challenges of public safety? So LTE and 5G and the applications are built upon an all-IP transport layer, an all-IP bearer, which actually provides flexibility that is really only constrained by the imagination of the application developers. I think what is most challenging will be not so much the technology and developing those applications, but actually introducing them into organizations and making the most of the possibilities that they offer. So changing the working practices of current users to actually benefit and exploit the new possibilities.
Yes, I think they are very flexible, much more flexible than what we have now. So you can use it small, for example, IoT sensor data, which doesn't take only narrow band capacity, and then you can use it big for like hundreds of megabits per second downstream and a bit less upstream for video. So it's at least it is scalable from very small to very big, which is good because we have different sort of use case. We might have a sensor somewhere that detects radiation, which only takes very little capacity. And then we might have a fire truck with a 6 HD camera and he's sending them to the control center. So it is flexible enough. What we need in terms of flexibility more than we have now is once we are in many countries not having dedicated network, we want the network architecture to be so flexible that it can at the same time make sure that we have enough service from it, the PPDR sector, the blue light players, but it has to do it cost efficiently, so it has to be able to allocate dynamically the resources that the PPDR sector needs from the commercial networks.